And I think that's the moment we're going to hear everything happen. So don't think we're going to hear like, oh, Diddy's charged by tomorrow. No, you're going to hear a period of silence. Diddy's going to lock in with his lawyers. Everybody around him has got to go. No more promotional items. No more pictures with the fam. It's bunker downtown time. Let's try to figure out what this is. And they're going to try to grand jury whatever this is and try to charge him. 100%. Watch.
For him, he may be in New York, as Haley was mentioning on the ground there, but clearly this was in all a very peaceful raid as they made entry, and right now as they are making their way in and out of the property as they conduct their search. But a search that is just beginning, as you see those suits, the investigators taking their time, making sure everything is done properly and methodically in terms of what they're looking for at this point. Again, we have a lot of questions that we just don't know the answers to at this point. We do have someone on the line right now, Hal Kemper. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you can make light of what we're looking at in terms of Homeland Security making entry into the Holmby Hills mansion of Sean Combs.
Sandra, this is a Homeland Security investigations that appears to be on site. What they're probably looking for is, well, I should say in general, they look at human trafficking and sex trafficking being a component of that. And of course, there's been some rather big civil suit stuff that's taken place, but also the New York case where the statute of limitations basically had been rescinded, allowing them to look back many years in this case. Part of it was there have been allegations that he was drugging young women, so that there was which certainly implies that it was rape that had taken place at some point. But I think what HSI is probably looking at is the interstate aspects of it, if there was any online activity that could have taken place, and that's usually where HSI.
Clearly, interstate activity. Diddy has multiple. Wait, remember that girl that claimed she was 17 or 18? Keep in mind, there's no statute of limitations on sexual assault, right? So if you did it and evidence comes up 29 years later, they will charge you, okay? And especially if you're someone who's an attractive person to get in terms of your P. Diddy. They want to parade you around like how they did motherfucking R. Kelly. They're going to do it. Here's the thing. Remember what that girl said? We're going to just Google it real quick. 17-year-old Diddy said that Diddy allegedly Harv had her, showed Diddy a picture of her. Diddy said, put her on a private jet, fly her to me, brought her to the studio, allegedly sexually assaulted her in the studio. That instantly says interstate. You brought one woman from one state to another and allegedly assaulted her. Now, we don't know if this is true. I want to be very fair to Diddy because I know he's going through a lot, and I do not want to pile on, especially when I'm not investigating this shit. If that's what it is, the feds are within their right to investigate this and charges as they would see fit, because that fits a federal statute. You have taken one person from one state, brought them to another state, and you have done, and you did that with the pretense of doing an illegal activity, especially sexual, and I don't know if they'll get into underage stuff. Again, what's also going to be big here is that what we saw, for example, the Little Rod lawsuit, which I have read through and through, is complete bullshit. It's complete bullshit. Maybe there's some half truths in it, but the majority of it is something that you could tell is a disgruntled producer trying to get some bread from Diddy. What we're going to see, what's going to happen with the feds involved, there can't be no. You remember Lil Rod said there was underage woman at a party, and then the woman came out like, no, we're overage. What the fuck are you talking about? We're old as hell. That can't happen with the feds. The feds got to come with the shit. So whatever we're going to see with the feds, they have to have proof that they believe is beyond a reasonable doubt that could be proved in court with 12 jurors, a jury of Sean Combs' peers or Diddy or Brother Love, whatever you want to call him, they would probably agree. Otherwise, and if they can't find that probable cause, you know, I forgot what the distinction that the grand jury, because this got to be grand jury no matter what. So grand jury has to, look at this and they got to make a ruling, right? So they're gonna look at the evidence and they're gonna be like, oh, this is evidence, blah blah. By the way, keep in mind, a grand jury, just to kind of, for people who might not know, a grand jury in usually most states, but specifically for some charges, have to be the ones, right? There's two ways to do it. You could, what's the other way to get an indictment, especially a felony indictment? If it's not grand jury, it's I think the judge, like a judge would just make the determination, but you have to submit it to a judge. The most popular one is a grand jury. It's usually more than 12 people. It's about like 24 people. They all look at it. They look at multiple cases per day. They usually convene for like 2 to 3 months, and they vote quickly. Like they might see usually the defendant is not there because it's a secret proceeding. So, for example, and I'll be very honest. I'm kind of always honest about like what I got. Remember, Summer with Shorty, that shit got grand juried. Like I wasn't there and never knew it happened. People voted because they seen the evidence. The evidence was a motherfucking surveillance tape. There's nothing there. What I got was called a no bill, which means there is no evidence to charge him with. We can't charge him. You get what I'm saying? They're going to go to a grand jury with all this evidence, and then they're going to try to, okay, is there evidence to charge this motherfucker? You get what I mean? It's usually 24 people. Most likely the defendant or the possible defendant isn't there. It's up to, they usually say you could grand jury or you could almost charge, they say you could charge a chicken sandwich. This is like a saying that prosecutors have, basically saying, bro, you could make this look any type of way just to get charges. You get what I'm saying? So, they're going to do that with all this evidence, and then we'll see. They did it with Trump. By the way, this is just how the law works. The reason why Trump got indicted, there was a grand jury. Now, hey, they're gonna probably do that for Diddy, and we will see. If he doesn't get charged, he's good. You know what I mean? The civil shit will always sit there, but whether you did anything or not, civil shit will always come about. You know what I mean? If somebody trips and hits their toe at Diddy's crib, they're gonna sue him. Doesn't mean they could actually put him in jail, but they could sue him. So that's probably gonna be what's left of the outcome. But I do, when we think about like federal shit, this case comes up in mind because if I remember the details, he tells his guy, put her on a private jet and fly her to me. I think she was in Chicago and she flew to New York. Chicago is in Illinois. New York is New York. Two different states. That's what make the feds do their thing, right?
Very, very, a lot of the individuals, a lot of the people who work there, to include here in Los Angeles, especially, what they're probably looking at are the two residences, one in New York, one in Los Angeles. And I haven't seen the documentation, but if it doesn't name Sean Combs by name, it's probably because there's been allegations that criminal activity had taken place tied to sex trafficking at these locations. So what they're doing is they're looking at the locations themselves and investigating them as potential crime scenes. And of course, with that, I'm sure the scope is such that they can look just about anywhere, gather up any materials. They're probably gathering up any electronic materials. They're probably doing things like imaging the place, taking a lot of pictures and stuff that may be used later. Could be in reference to what witnesses say on the stand, that they may look at various pictures of the locations themselves to help refresh their memory while they're talking about various activities that may have taken place or alleged to have taken place. So there's a lot of reasons why they might not focus on him per se. Also, there's another thing too, is he runs a fairly large organization. The fact that they don't name him might mean that they're looking at other activities that could have taken place within his immediate, entourage or his organization that involve these properties. So one can't rule out anything at this point because we don't know a lot.
Sure, and obviously this is just their statement to the press at this point. So what the actual legal documents say and what the statement they gave us is very, very different, let's be clear. So we're sometimes, not privy to all of those details and information until it becomes available at a later date. But you were mentioning the whole search process. We are seeing so many law enforcement officials, investigators, and this is basically 3 properties on this entire, or 3 homes, I should say, buildings on this entire property in Holmby Hills we're talking about. How long is it going to take for them to go through it? Do they have a time limit? I mean, essentially, some people are going to come back into the home, right, at some point. So how does that all play out?
I'm sure if you were to ask them, they'd say it's going to take as long as it takes. These are huge properties. You can imagine looking through one home takes a lot of time, but when you have 3 very large buildings with a lot of different rooms, various different levels on those homes. Also, they're going to be looking at every nook and cranny. They'll be looking anything that's subsurface in the home. They'll be looking in basically everywhere they can. They could be using a variety of sensor systems to find out if there's any hidden compartments, safes, things like that, and walls that aren't readily apparent. There could be a lot of different things they're looking for, and they may have dogs there too, looking for various different things as well. But they're probably looking for more where stuff may be held. I would imagine with that, and of course anything tied to any of the allegations. We don't know. But certainly the fact that they're there indicates that they probably had,
Now, let me just say this. And by the way, again, I'm not an expert, but, I try to do my best. I will say, based on how much I've heard how meticulous the feds moves, it's probably even likely that this search warrant was not only based on information that they might find something, they might have even had a tip be like, yo, there's a secret place where they keep all the tape recordings of all the years of blah, blah, blah. You never know. Keep in mind, when it came to Trump, there was a tip given to, and no Diddy on the tip, but there was a tip given to the feds that said, hey, Trump kept documents at a certain, so people told them what they were going to find. So they're not in there like, hey, what are we looking for? Hey, what's what? They're going in there with we know what we're going to find. We just need to go get it. So that might be the situation as well with this. We don't know yet. Again, we're just kind of speculating at this point.
But we know there's a lot of interest in this story. Yet again, we have been on this now for about 45 minutes. We want to put the pictures up so you can see what is going on there overhead in the Holmby Hills section of Los Angeles. And this, from what we understand, is a multi-million-dollar mansion connected to Diddy, the music mogul, the famous rapper. And so it's not only there in Los Angeles that one of his homes that he is connected to is being raided by law enforcement, by Homeland Security investigators there, but also his home in Miami, a home that is affiliated with him as well. So if you're just joining us here, this is the top of a new hour. It's 2 o'clock here on the West.
By the way, speaking of which, this is one of the reasons people speculate. This is why Russell Simmons been in Bali. This is why he been doing he been doing yoga in the sauna with Usher. He don't want to come back to the United States. Russell Simmons, you know what? Everybody be like, why he in Bali? You know why he in Bali? Because he ain't want this. You feel me? This nigga over here doing hot yoga, doing all this shit. You know what? Look at this nigga. Last thing he worried about is the feds surrounding this bitch. This nigga is in Bali. Peace out, America. I'm over here. This nigga look like the worm from motherfucking Men in Black. What the fuck? I'm telling you, Diddy was just thinking that he was just gonna take that. Hell nah, nigga. Hell nah, nigga. Yo, Diddy should have realized Cassie devious. Cassie took the bread. Who want to bet Cassie is one of the main witnesses? Who want to bet? Also, the goddamn feds link up with all the 50 male escorts who used to come through and pipe her out and shit like that. They got everybody. Y'all notice who never said nothing? All these escorts never said nothing. I guarantee the police don't find them. Look at this nigga right here. He's like, man, this yoga shit is way better than jail. I ain't gonna lie to you. R. Kelly singing for Honey Buns. I'm over here just stretching. Oh my God. Oh my sweet Jesus. R. Kelly, where the hell you at, nigga? Yeah, step in the name of what? Yeah, step in the name of commissary, nigga. I'm over here like stressed. I'm over here just like burning sweat with a bunch of niggas. Holy. Back to the shit.
In addition to so many of these law enforcement officials, of these law enforcement investigators as well. So I'm Andrew Kraft. Thanks so much for being here with us as we continue to cover this story here. In the meantime, we just got a new live picture up overhead in Miami, Florida, of one of these residents that is connected to Diddy as well. We're going to put both of these shots on the screen.
Yo, by the way, this is why I say Diddy's done.
Let's put this up here. So this is what you can see.
Diddy has multiple. Oh,
kind of bring us back.
Is that Star Island?
Acquainted with this story, the Los Angeles home there of Diddy.
Is this Star Island?
Homeland Security today in connection with the federal sex trafficking.
Oh my God, let me see.
Now, kudos to Fox
Yo,
11.
it's Star Island. That's that Miami property, Star Island right here. Oh my God, that's the shit that's worth like 40 or $50 million.
It's the coast.
Very like super secluded, super exclusive. That's where Carisha used to be at.
A live picture right now of
my God,
his home in Los Angeles and his home in Miami, Florida, as we speak, live, raw, and unfiltered.
From what I know, he owns like high-rise condos in New York, so no houses like this.
In Los Angeles, was registered to Bad Boys Films. It's a division of Bad Boy Entertainment, along with one of Combs's daughters. So, remember, we weren't exactly sure who was in the home at the time, either in Los Angeles or Miami. Of course, these are mansions, thousands of square feet, many acred properties. So you would imagine, and you're seeing kind of how the other half lives here, that, you know, staffers at the home, possibly family, friends, assistants, what have you. We just don't know who was in the home at the time. Now, they had to make sure these homes were vacated before they can conduct kind of the peculiarities and the particularities of their investigation, kind of combing through. And you heard there from our friend Hal Kempfer on Fox 11 say that they would be taking a lot of photos, that they would probably be taking a lot of electronics like computer hard drives.
If we see a Diddy butt plug, no Diddy, on the goddamn Discovery, I'm done. Carisha, by the way, Carisha, I heard you one of the no bullshit. I heard Carisha is one of the informants.
It sure begged the question of whether there's a criminal investigation, but the hugest red flag was back after the Cassie lawsuit was filed and there was an NYPD leak about a criminal probe. Now, you'll remember that lawsuit filed by a former girlfriend of Diddy's, the prominent R&B star Cassie, and there was some very, very damaging and disturbing claims made by Cassie against Diddy to the tune of sexual assault, degradation, and the like. And then she retracted that lawsuit after an undisclosed amount was settled on. Remember, she was asking, I believe, somewhere in the $30 million range of damages, but more than a week after that lawsuit was filed, it was dropped over an undisclosed settlement.
48 hours, gang.
If this is in any way connected to this, I am just bringing in context to describe what has been going on with Diddy recently. Numerous lawsuits filed against him, many of women who have been accusing him of various degrees of sexual assault and sexual misconduct and for his behavior. So if you are just joining us right now, I'm Andrew Kraft. We are over these scenes both in Los Angeles and in Miami. We don't have any confirmation of who was at the homes at the times of these raids, whether Diddy was in the vicinity, whether any of his family members or children or assistants or staffers were at the homes in question when the raids took place.
Chat, this is crazy. So, chat, you got to think about. Remember, I said 100,000. I think I'm lowballing it. Like, no Diddy. Like, we have to really think about what this is. This is a coordinated effort. It's not going to only take state officials, whether in Florida, New York, or California. It's going to take government official, HSI. I'm pretty sure.
All right. So, like I said,
I'm pretty sure there's other like government officials involved. They got to hit all three spots at the same time. These are places. Do you know what 17,000 square footage is? And you got to imagine whether it's a phone, whether it's like, you know what I mean, secret closets, whether it's anything. Who cares? They have to comb through all of these things and the below. Who knows if the warrant as only says you have physical search rights to look at the property. Maybe they have other rights to look at other things. By the way, again, this is the property over on the right here, which is Star Island. So essentially, I could show you how that looks. Star Island, Miami. Essentially, it looks like this. It's a man-made property or a man-made island, so to speak, that was made by the U.S. military years ago. And it's sectioned off really nicely that everybody has these houses that cost $40 million or some crazy amount. Diddy's lived there for a while. I think recently, I think Ross bought a property over here. I believe, I can't remember how many, but I think it's about like 40-something properties that's on this island, period. Super exclusive. You can't get over there if you don't live there without some proper whatever. It's like almost like a gated island, if you want to say. So they had to hit, you know, because if you hit Los Angeles first, maybe the real shit was in another property. They got to call over there. Keep in mind, this is very different than even what they did for Trump, right? So when they ran into Trump's Mar-a-Lago property, if you don't know, that's his property in Florida, they didn't, and someone could correct me if I'm wrong, they didn't also run into his properties in other states. He has a property in Bedminster, New Jersey. He has a property at multiple properties in New York. They only served that search warrant for one particular place. It appears that with the Diddy, they're serving a search warrant for pretty much everywhere that may have been mentioned, either in maybe some of these civil suits or where some allegations of stuff has gone down. The mere fact that they're searching this new property in Miami, I think he moved there. I can't remember what year, so let's look at the year. Diddy buys Star Island property. Again, what year was this? Here we go. We need a date on this. Can we find a date? We can't find a date. Let's find a date. We just want to know when he moved into this. Okay, so actually, never mind. So, okay, so he's been here for since 2011, so never mind. He's always been there, so I apologize for that. But I know the Homely Hills one, he hasn't been there forever. Homely Hills purchase. Let's see. So this was 2014. So this is a reasonable assumption. We don't know. Again, I'm speculating. We're just kind of giving, you know, some conversation pieces while all this shit is happening. It's a police raid. It's a search warrant. It's going to be slow. They're going to have people stand there all day, all the way till night. They're going to detain all these guys and probably try to either question them or they're going to release them and tell them they can't go back to the house because they're going to be searching everything. So this was $40 million, and it looks like this was bought maybe in 2014. Now, again, if we're going back to when that 17-year-old was, that's in the 90s. If we're going back to when Cassie was, that's in the early 2000s. And by the way, Cassie did say it went on to 2017. So who knows? Maybe Cassie gave some information or has been to this property. Who knows, right? Cassie could have been to this property and could have been to Star Island. Also, the reason why I'm looking up dates is because if it's showcasing a new place that he's bought within the last couple of years, it would probably lead me to believe that the police are in talks or have interviewed someone that has been to a newer property that is probably really recent in his life, but all these properties look like he's owned at least for 10 years or so. This is 10 years, and the other one's 10 years. And his New York properties, I think he's owned for like a really long while. Yeah, it's near the Playboy Mansion, 17,000 square foot. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. Again, just to let you know why I looked up the dates is because say he bought a house last year. If they're searching that house, either they thought he brought something to the house that has evidence, or maybe he did something at the house, which means it would be a new girl or a girl that's current. Let's go back to it.
On the eve of the expiration of the Adult Survivors Act, it's a New York law allowing victims of sexual abuse a 1-year window to file civil action regardless of the statute of limitations. That was somewhat of a groundbreaking law in New York, passed to allow those victims of sexual abuse.
JRP, I see you on Rumble. I wouldn't say necessarily that. You said if a judge signed off on your crib. Remember, a search warrant, you just need probable cause that there is evidence that supports the doing of a crime. I told y'all there was a search warrant ran to my house. There was 0 charges brought. Actually, everything went to grand jury, got no build. That's a fact. You know what I mean? So it doesn't mean charges are going to get brought. It does mean that they intend to bring charges or they think they could bring charges. And like, for example, in my situation, based on the text message and what they heard from the person, they believe that on video they were going to see they were going to see this going on. And the reason why in text I wasn't willing to give the person the video is because the video detailed a crime. Once they got the video, it didn't support that. So, of course, they still grand juried it because they don't want to be blamed because, you know, people be like, oh, you're giving them preference. So people had to vote on it. And it still wasn't enough. So it doesn't mean that he's getting charges. We don't know until the grand jury convenes.
About these investigations and how these raids are carried out. We're going to keep the live pictures up. We're going to hear some of these voices, though, right now. Attorney and expert Nicole DeBoard, who has been following this as well. She joins me. Nicole, happy Monday. Good.
Now, I'm sorry I keep pausing it. Keep in mind, it's a very huge distinction between, I'm using some personal experience here to try to give and contextualize that you guys can understand a little bit. Wait, did they block? Wait, what is this? So this is the only road that connects. This is the only road that connects, like, Miami, Maine to Star Island. I'm wondering if they blocked it. It looked like they didn't. Okay. I seen them zooming in. This is the island. Anyway, here's what I was saying. The difference between, I'm using some personal experience because I'm telling you that I've had a search warrant ran on my home before. The difference is with this particular situation, though, is because this is the feds, right? And the feds don't investigate local crime, right? So, for example, if something happened just in Miami and at his Miami property, they wouldn't investigate. The feds come in when there's a bunch of criteria met, which means there is some interstate, you're doing a crime that affects interstate commerce, which this is a reason why it's multiple cribs in multiple states. And they're coming in with not only kind of a higher burden of proof, but they're going to only come in once they have crossed their T's and dot their I's, right? So I would think that this isn't a fishing measure, which a fishing measure would be we need to go get the evidence. This would be more of a, hey, we already got a bunch of evidence. We're going in to go get maybe some additional shit or some shit that, like, the smoking gun, if so to speak, right? So again, that's the difference between, I think, a normal state. And again, I'm not a lawyer. You guys just take my, I try to use some personal experience and also, like, I'm always in tune with this. Let's see what's going on here. Damn, they're walking around with guns out. Shit, hold on, my bad.
Some activity that crossed state lines, for example.
By the way, I hate to pause this, but it also looks like here's one thing that we haven't realized or kind of like checked out about this whole process. That, I'm going to read the full details of it, but it appears, and by the way, look at this police truck right here. Like, this is almost like they've set up a headquarters center right there. Like, it's like a home base. Like, this is in Miami. But here's the thing in Los Angeles, right? It appears that with them, right? It appears with them, they knew the blueprint of the house. So you could know the feds, they move so well. They're so prepared. they knew, like, for example, look, let me pause right here. This is the front door. They ain't kicked that door down. In most cases, if it's drugs or whatever the case is, you got to go in quick, blah, blah. They're going to kick that front door down. They went into Diddy's property, and it's not that they want to give him no respect, but they probably had the layout of the house. They probably knew inside the house. They probably knew a lot about the house. You heard what the person said before. They got into the house via a side entrance, which was probably not that invasive. Maybe there was like a glass door. They just broke the door or broke the glass and just got in that way, right? Remember, they're not going to be like knocking like, hey, we're here. We want to come look at some stuff. And you're like, oh, hold on. Let me go delete it real quick. They got to go in immediately. So they didn't go in front door, which a lot of times, if you watch the movies, they're going through the front door. They're kicking the door down. They go in discreetly, and apparently they said they had no problem. That's another thing you should know. They had no problem, which means they got in quickly because they either knew, okay, this is the glass door. We could just hit it real quick, get in. But they weren't lollygagging out there, like taking the time to get in, which means they knew the layout of the house. This is 17,000 square footage. They have the full layout of this house, the blueprint, and much more to make sure they're going to execute not only this plan according to how they want to do it, but, the most efficiently. Anyway, let's go.
Every room, you have to sweep the grounds, and you have to make sure no one is a threat when you make a raid like this. But should we look into something like that?
Enforcement, as a general rule, wants to make sure that they're completely prepared for what they're about to encounter, and that usually involves and does involve a great.
Nikki Yardy, man, I'm gonna do this one just for you, man. Thank you for the donation, man. Listen, man, I gotta do it, Chad. I gotta do it. Oh man.
Man, I fell down to my knees when the law came. Man, I fell down to my knees when the law came. Man, I fell down to my knees when the law came.
Oh, man. All right, let's get back to it.
Early, these very large businesses.
Hey, chat, I know some of y'all saying next topic. No, this is breaking, trending. We're live. This is one of the reasons why we live stream. You can't get this moment anytime else. We're going to be rocking with this moment for the next, 2-3 hours, okay? I'll still give y'all regular topics and also get back to, the Drake shit, but shit. Remember I told you we're going to be on for 7? We might be on for 10.
As you're setting out on your investigation, you want to make sure all these witnesses are separated so that you can start interviewing them and get their point of view uniquely.
Nicole, we also saw on the video here that law enforcement in Los Angeles, in the Holmby Hills home, they detained people around the house or in the house. Now, they're not necessarily, and correct me if I'm wrong, they wouldn't be considered suspects. Is that normally how law enforcement would do this? They would detain people on the scene just for questioning and then maybe release them later? Or do they know who they're looking for? Are they going to these raids to arrest people is what I'm asking.
Sometimes the answer is both. And sometimes the warrant actually says it's a search and arrest warrant. So they're there to actually arrest certain individuals who they do believe are suspects. And sometimes they're just search warrants, which means they're there to gather information. They have some very particular information they have to give a judge in order to get a judge to sign off on a warrant, because you can see there by looking at the screen yourself. I mean, this is a very invasive process. They're going into the home of an individual, and there has to be reason enough to believe that what they're looking for is going to be in that home. And they have to secure all of the individuals walking around in that home or detain them to make sure that they don't dispose of evidence or move evidence or do something to potentially damage the investigation. So it may not be that everyone in.
Hey, I seen Akram on YouTube say, yo, a raid don't mean shit. Neither allegations need proof. Here's the thing, though. The way Diddy gets money at this point is not through music. It's through these companies that he was always the face of. This is the problem with Diddy, and I don't know if he'll ever get into a financial situation because he's really up. But when you're the face of these companies and you no longer, this, you have to realize there's no company that could either on a board or whether it's an ambassador or someone's an endorser, you cannot have Sean Combs as an ambassador of your company right now. And that's how he made a lot of his money. by being the ultimate promoter. How do you think he got with Ciroc? He was the ultimate promoter to the point they gave him points on flavored Ciroc. Y'all didn't know that? He was getting paid for just promoting Ciroc, right? Then, because he did such a great job, they then said to him, hey, we will give you more money, or we'll give you a percentage, but you have to launch like a different like flavor, coconut. This is the Coco Loso Ciroc. You'll get points on that. He's the ultimate promoter. Now, here's the problem. Who's going to promote with these things leading as the headline? Hey, this guy his home is being raided for sex trafficking. He's in this probe. He's sued for this. This is really the thing that's going to get him. And by the way, here's the thing. And this is no hater shit, but I'm going to just speak what I know about the industry. For what I've heard, that Revolt has never been that profitable. I heard Diddy's always made it happen. And to be honest, I've always rooted for Revolt because that's a black man trying to make a TV station happen when we don't see these happen all the time. What's happening now is going to start crippling Diddy's finances. It's going to start crippling his profits. And he's going to, at a certain point, going to have to let go of certain of these things. Hey, we're not doing new shows on Revolt right now. Hey, listen, we're looking for a buyer. Hey, this and third. These things are going to happen. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that is going to be probably part of the Fed's strategy in trying to convict him. Because someone with the money, the means, and the resources like Diddy, and especially how he's been able to operate with impunity, if he has all this resources, it's going to be hard. But if you now get him, he's radioactive, he can't really get money on the regular market like he used to. Of course, he's always going to get, like, he has a bunch of money. He's, like, Diddy probably gets about $40 million, or I'd say $30 million every year, but it's through music. Not new music. He owns people's masters. So, like, when you listen to Biggie, Diddy's getting paid forever and always, right? He owns masters of people, so he's always going to get a certain amount. But you got to realize the lifestyle Diddy lives. I was telling people about, like, what you spend versus what you make. It always changes, right? Because y'all might be like, damn, if I get 100,000, if I could make 100,000 a year, nigga, I only spend like 30 grand a year. I'm good. Look at these houses. What do you think he's spending a year? Diddy has full-on teams. He has a company of people. He pays a CFO. Diddy is expending at least 8 figures to maintain that company and maintain his lifestyle. I would think tens of millions per year. It's all good as long as you're still making and profiting tens of millions per year. What this is going to do is it's going to shrink it. It's going to shorten it down. And when the feds come in, they're playing the long game with you. Look what they did to Irv Gotti. They're playing the long game with you. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Investigation. How hard is it, Nicole, to get everyone on the same page, to get everyone on board with this is what we're looking for, this, maybe who we need to question, who we need to detain? Is that a very heavy lift, so to speak?
It is a heavy lift. Hours of planning that went into the execution, right down to who would be involved on each team, because it has to be something that is not leaked. It is coordinated as to timing, and you have 2 completely different time zones. And so you want to make sure that every person on each of those teams is going in at the same time, because you don't want whoever you're trying to investigate to learn that you're looking for documents in one location, because they could quickly secrete them or hide them, destroy them in the secondary location. So this has to happen at the same time. It also is best if it happens at the same time, because you don't want witnesses talking to each other about what the other one said before law enforcement has an opportunity to talk to these folks. So it is a very heavy lift. It takes a lot of coordinating, and you want to make sure that everyone on the team knows what their role is and what they're supposed to be doing and not supposed to be doing.
Okay, so we're taking a live picture right now, Nicole, there in Miami at the residence, one of the residences of Diddy there. I want to show for the viewers that we're going to bring you on camera here, Nicole. We want to thank you for being with us. We're going to keep you around for just a little bit longer because...
By the way, this is so embarrassing, at least for Diddy. You're in the neighborhood, like your neighbor is the guy who owns this company, like this. You're with all the rich people, and there's helicopters hovering above the sky, 50 cop cars, 200 actual officers in your house. They're surrounding the neighborhood, checkpoints. Look, fucking embarrassing. What's this?
So many of these agents, they're trying to break down one of these front doors or at least gain access to it. And so presumably, you know, this is what they train for. This is how they go about this.
Oh, shit. This is I think this is in Miami. They broke it down then.
If you're not
shit,
pushback or opposition, or there's no danger.
Wow, they did break down one of his doors.
The individuals in the house, why do they have to have such manpower like this?
Well, it does not mean that they believe that there's danger involved, but you can see that these officers are not taking anything for granted. They're there in uniform. They're clearly identifiable as law enforcement. They have what appears to be bulletproof vests on just in case something goes wrong.
Never mind. I think this is Homely Hills. This is in L.A.
Stack, if you will.
You remember when they ran up in Polo G's house? They kind of looked like this too.
The person who is,
but they were arresting him and his brother, and then later his brother got charged for murder.
And it's not the kind of thing you can see. There's such a difference all the way from where the gate to that property that we're looking at now is all the way to the front door of the actual residence. There's some time. So what law enforcement does not typically want to do is ring the doorbell and have a little chat with whoever's on the inside of the house, so that if somebody has a flash drive or something that they might want to flush down the toilet or otherwise remove from the residence or somehow hide, they have time to deal with it. These law enforcement officers have a plan, and they're executing a plan where they also want the element of surprise to be on their side.
Oh, I see. Okay, that makes sense. You know, being in the news, I think the last kind of federal raid in the public consciousness was the raid at Mar-a-Lago in South Florida back in August of 2022. Wow. And we saw that kind of all unfold as well. Of course, I'm not comparing these two situations or scenes by any means, but these were essentially, Nicole, raids that we all watched in real time. And so I think a lot of the American people and viewers became pretty well acquainted with how law enforcement does this. Now, let's talk about the probe itself. We're getting that from our sources at Fox 11, that this is an investigation regarding allegations of sex trafficking federally. Now, is that federal aspect important to this? Obviously, states have their own laws on the books when it comes to sex trafficking. But if the feds are looking into this, into homes associated with such a high-profile person, you just have to kind of make the leap that this is going to be a story for a very long time. What is so particular about the federal aspect of this?
Likely that it is federal because they believe there was some element of crossing state lines with some of the conduct. And again, without seeing the warrant, if we don't see the warrant, we can't see the affidavit. We don't know exactly what the government is alleging occurred here. We're taking a guess based on some civil lawsuit information that this is probably what this is about. It's clearly a criminal investigation at this point because you see those law enforcement individuals making entry. And
hey, Chad, yo, could y'all start a poll on all our respectful platforms? And by the way, salute to all y'all. I don't know if y'all chat niggas or not. We have about 40,000 people watching us across all platforms. We have about 8,000 on Rumble. We have 6,000 on the Academy page. We have 27,000 people on the King Academics page. We have about 500 people on Facebook, and then we have about 3,500 on Twitch. So thank all you guys for tuning in. We're going to be locked in for this. We're probably going to be here for another 5 hours at least. But I do want to ask y'all a question. So start a poll. Mods, please help me out. The reason why I'm shocked is whatever you believe in, Illuminati, whatever, I never thought Diddy was ever going to be charged. charged. I always said the reason why Bill Cosby's where he's at is because he wasn't like Diddy. Yes, he had money, but he didn't have the cachet and the influence and wasn't really with those people that would prevent this from happening. R. Kelly just didn't, like, R. Kelly blew all that shit. You know what I mean? But Diddy, I thought no matter what the fuck happens, you wouldn't see him in cuffs. You wouldn't see this raid happening at his property. And I know you might be like, well, why wouldn't you say that when it happened to Jeffrey Epstein? Do you know what Jeffrey Epstein had to do before he really got in trouble? There was a time that motherfucker got in trouble that they had a secret proceeding in court and basically just gave him a slap on the wrist and told him to go the fuck home. Nobody knows what happened. They destroyed everything. They have treated certain people of power and influence who have been ingratiated with certain entities, and especially now we have a Democratic president, while Diddy's been one of the biggest proponent of voting for Democrat. I'm like, nah, ain't nobody nothing's gonna happen to, like, you would see it happen to Trump more because right now we're in the era of Biden. But now seeing this with Diddy, I'm like, whoa. Here's the poll. Did you or do you think, did you think that Diddy was ever going to be arrested for what we heard? By the way, he has not been arrested yet, but do you think he will be ever arrested? Because before today, I'd say, fuck no. Right now, I'm saying, uh-oh. Let's get back to it.
You know, that would mean that potentially, although there would definitely be arguments in court, that they could say, well, this is the same conspiracy. It was going on as of yesterday. And for that reason, we believe that we are going to be able to continue to prosecute no matter how old some of the initial complainants in the conspiracy were at the time. So those could be 20 years old. I mean, these cases are incredibly burdensome for a defense team. They're expensive, they're enormously stressful. I mean, if you can imagine also, you know, he's presumed innocent. It is presumed that he's done absolutely nothing wrong, which is really a hard thing for us to imagine watching what we're watching right now on camera. And for a defendant accused in a case of this nature, you know, especially with so much time potentially being at issue for witnesses to make claims, it's almost like having to prove a negative that it didn't happen, even though that's not what our Constitution or criminal court rules require.
So, of course, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but you are saying the very fact that these homes affiliated with Diddy are being raided in this fashion, it would be hard to, you know, down the line, you would be surprised, to, so to speak, if Diddy wasn't somewhat implicated in that. That's what my line of questioning is to you. You know, how likely is it that a family member, an employee, a staffer on the grounds, or so to speak, that they are involved primarily and that the homes just so happen to be owned by Sean Diddy Combs? Is that unlikely or likely in your history?
You know, just the fact that they're his residences do, you know, that does bring concern that they believe, anyway, that evidence of a serious federal crime is located in Combs's home, which leads one to believe that at a minimum they think that potentially there is some involvement. I mean, his home is involved because they got a judge to sign off on a warrant saying evidence of this serious crime is in it.
Sure.
So he's got a battle ahead.
Yeah. You know, I'm going to step away right now from these live pictures. Nicole, I want to get your thoughts on this piece of video from how this all kicked off here. Okay, so you see there, this is in the Holmby Hills neighborhood there in Los Angeles. Investigators detained someone, Nicole, and you see this right here. This is video, this is not live, this is from earlier. And I guess my question to you is, you know, what comes first, kind of the chicken or the egg, the indictment or the raid, or the raid or the indictment? Which comes first? Because you see there, they're detaining people on the ground. This was, what, maybe an hour ago. No doubt they're going to be questioned, possibly booked, not sure if they're going to be charged. We just don't know any of that. But presumably one has to happen for the other, right?
Believe it or not, it doesn't. They can actually they can execute a search warrant without charges being filed based on essentially a criminal complaint. So, no indictment in that instance. And sometimes they indict a case and they don't have everybody that they think is responsible listed in that indictment, or the grand jury hasn't indicted everybody who they think is a part of the case. And so
I'll call you back. Yo,
Okay.
Matt, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yo, chat.
Hold on 1 second. Let me put on my headphones. You guys can hear me, but I can't hear you. I think I gotta route it through my other thing.
Okay. Yo,